Paula is the regional director at WIC, ex-Premiership and East of England rugby player. Impressive. A career spanning decades in construction, award-winning, and more recently a judge for many awards. She's the co-founder of Girls Believe programme at WIC and Women's Construction Skills Academy. Paula sits on WIC's SLT and D&I steering group and WIC's Women and Allies Network. She's a finalist for our Women in Construction Lifetime Achievement Award this year as well. Right. Obviously, the main achievement in your life. By far, and is a huge advocate for equality in construction and a real inspiration to all people in construction. Paula has a great story to tell about her journey and the importance of both female and male allies. Over to you, Paula.
Thanks, Michaela. God, that was, look at that. I don't need to say anything. It's perfect. I've got a bit of a face for radio, I'm afraid, so you'll have to bear with me after all those years playing rugby. But listen, I'm absolutely thrilled to be here to share my story with you. And I know any woman in construction has ridden that roller coaster ride of ups and downs and screaming wildly around the loops. But we are where we are because of this rigorous approach to just cracking on against adversity. So I'm delighted to be here with such a prestigious audience, just sharing my simple story with you. So I used to start my career with the opening line of, despite my youthful looks, I've been in the industry for 30 years, but that doesn't cut it anymore. And I'm perfectly happy, by the way, skidding into retirement with my bandana slightly jaunty and thinking, what the hell has just happened there? And that is a bit about us and all at the same time. A lot has happened over my 3 decades in the industry. And where we are now, even though it's not perfect, it's built on a lot of hard work from me, you, lots of unsung heroes, but also the insistence on not just accepting our lot or limitations that others put on us. And I think that's really something worth celebrating for the work that we do ourselves, but also the support we get from our male and our female allies. In my experience, we have made a gigantic leap from those days. I don't know if any of you guys experienced it, but the makeshift toilets in the cleaners' cupboards that were literally buckets on site, to being the designated tea lady, the designated minute writer, all of those fun things, you know, before you finally get to prove your worth more than a cup of char. From where we've come to where we are now, having choices, taking responsibility for our own career progression, genuinely supporting each other, and women supporting other women is such a big thing for me, because I've experienced in the past quite the opposite, and I could never understand it. Women should be helping other women to get to flourish in the industry. It's taken time, it's taken determination. Every single one of us on this call is testament to that, and so more of it, I say. So my story so far, if I just click onto the next slide, has been brought to you with this word. And I'm just going to check with Michaela that we've turned on to the next slide, Michaela.
Yes. Sorry, I don't know if you can see me. Paula, I'm not sure. Is it just me? I don't feel like your signal's dropping out, but I don't know.
It keeps dropping out for me as well. It keeps on going funny. Yeah, I think you're losing signal sometimes.
Your sound has gone now.
Tell you what, let me stop my video. Just stop my video, Michaela.
Yeah, and try that, because it's the sound what's dropping out.
Let me give it a go.
Yeah, that is actually better.
Shall I try now? It's a bit impersonal. I don't usually like putting my...
We keep losing the sound, Paula.
That is so odd, because I've got full internet at the minute.
I can hear you now perfectly.
Oh, can you?
Just whenever you say anything interesting, it cut you off. basically.
Listen, give us a wave if it starts dropping out, and I'll try and do something different.
Okay, perfect.
Have you got my next slide, Michaela?
Yeah, we can see that, the word can't, yeah?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
So just to pick up from that, this word is a massive trigger for me. I'm sure it is for a lot of you on the call. Anyone who knows me will tell you that it gets my heckles up, but it's also helped me define where I've got to in my career, because the more someone tells me I can't do something, the more I want to do it. I think that was kind of instilled in me from quite a young age. From since I can remember, I was a bit of an anarchist, rebelling against this kind of notion that I couldn't or shouldn't do something. As a result, being told I couldn't play football at school. I played football with the boys. I think you did as well, Michaela. I was told that girls couldn't play rugby. I went on to be a Premiership rugby player. I was told that girls couldn't drive JCBs. So I spent lots of summers driving JCBs and digging out ditches for golf courses, which was loads of fun. And I also got told that I couldn't balance a successful career with raising a young family. And I've got 9-year-old twins now, and we're all still kicking about. So you can do it. And woe betide anyone who says can't. It started quite early. To my brother's eternal despair, I once staged a sit-down protest in a working men's club in the northeast of England because they had a men-only bar, and I was like, I'm not having this. They had to drag me out. But the sense of fair play and feeling affronted by being told I couldn't go somewhere. I had, like, my moral compass was truly sharpened and stabbing holes through what I felt was gender inequality and social injustice. So put your money where your mouth is. That's what I say. I'm proud to say not a lot has changed. I have learned to temper my reaction a little bit, though, and offer a bit more of a balanced view and bring others on that journey with me by creating allies and accepting the help of allies, which I think is so important for all of us. So, like many of you on the call, I never experienced gender bias until it was time for me to pursue my career. I was brought up as a forces brat. My dad was in the RAF, and he brought both me and my brother up with the same discipline and the same opportunities. There was no differentiation at all. There was no favoritism shown by our parents. So when I was confronted by that first experience of overt sexism, it really rocked my confidence. And I kind of, I don't know, it tore through that fog of innocence that we all have when we're first starting out, that you'll just be treated on merit rather than anything else. I always love creating things, inventing things, lots of card models and Lego models. And I was brought up in the days where we had Blue Peter and Why Don't You? I'm showing my age here, aren't I? But all over our screens, encouraging us to kind of craft our way out of boredom. But I decided quite early on that I wanted to pursue a career in design, technology, engineering, and that's what I set about doing. After I graduated, I managed to get a first interview straight out of uni, and I was told, basically, yeah, come in, let's talk to you. I think it's a lot harder now for graduates to secure their first interview, but it was really intense. They had me running around talking about technical solutions. They were pointing at things on the shelves, on drawings, and asking me to say how I would design it better, how I would solve the design challenges. And I thought I was smashing it. And then at the end of the interview, and totally out of the blue, one of the male interviewers asked me a question that really stopped me in my tracks. And I'm just going to flick on to the next slide. And I think you could probably tell what it was. So he asked me if I could make a decent cup of tea. And I thought, oh, really? Really? And I said, did you just ask that to the guy that had come in for an interview before? And he went all red-faced. And as it happened, I got the job. And I did think long and hard about saying, is this the sort of company I want to join as my first experience? There was this feeling in the pit of my stomach. It made me feel like I was out of my depth. I wasn't being taken seriously, but I did decide to stick with it because it played to that you can't do this. But I also didn't want to allow him to get away with that sort of behavior. So I stuck with it, and I started trying to change those outdated and negative attitudes from the inside out, proving my worth and showing the value that I could bring. So those early years, I soaked up everything that I could. I asked the stupid questions. I got sent for the tartan paint and the long wait and the bubble for the spirit level. You know, they treated me like one of the gang, actually, and it was a lovely breakthrough into the industry. And I learned to carve out partnerships and draw from the expertise of others around me, the value of collaboration, teamwork. And I was really inquisitive. I was really curious. I think if you asked any of them, I was a real pain in the ass. I would just ask about the why. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? What if we did it in a certain way? So just to switch up to a bit of a chronology, I'm not going to touch on all of this. You've probably noticed that I can talk quite a lot. The bright lights of London were calling me. I was in the northeast of England still. I felt that I'd outgrown that role, and I wanted to get down to London and start having an influence on the skyline down there. So I joined a firm that was doing bespoke engineering solutions, architectural metalwork and the like. And money was tight. So the guy kind of drew me down by saying, look, we've got a house on site. You can come and live on site. And the office is only around the corner. That I did. What a naive girl I was. So I went and lived right on site, and basically he had me working 24/7. He'd ring me up on the weekend. He'd say, Paula, I've got a motorbike courier coming to collect some drawings in an hour. Get over here. Can you do them? We need to send them off. And to be honest, I just did it. I just thought that's what you did. I thought you did whatever you had to do to get the job done. And I was ambitious, so I just cracked on. So that experience built a lot of resilience, but it also taught me the power of negotiation. So across my studies and my previous assignments, I'd developed this approach to advanced digital design. I'd done a master's in advanced digital design, so I knew how important 3D design back in the day was going to be to our emerging kind of the future of our industry. So I could quickly see where efficiencies could be made in what that company was doing and how we could better deliver the design on those projects. And I said to the guys there, I said, why aren't we using 3D digital tools? And they told me there was no way the boss would invest in that technology. Well, that's telling me can't, isn't it? We can't get investment. So I went home that night, I wrote a business case that framed the benefits and touched on the return on investment that really tapped into my boss's commercial ambitions. So he signed off the plan the next day, the very next day. And all the guys in the team were like, how the hell did you get him to do that? I'm like, you just got to talk in his language. Don't just take no as the first answer and just stick with it. So we got loads of new business as a direct result of this now enhanced offer. But the most important thing is that something else happened. I started to be taken seriously, not as the tea girl, not as the minute taker, but as someone who was embracing innovation and coming up with new ideas. And my boss, this guy who was known for being a bit of a tyrant, he became an advocate and he became an ally. And I think he was as surprised by that as I was. So that was a real lovely foundation that started off really unhealthy, but turned into a really positive story for me. Michaela, are you still hearing me all right? I'm kind of banging on and hoping that we're okay.
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly. I think it might be because you shared the screen, so since you've turned the camera off, it's all been spot on.
Okay. And you don't get to see my ever-growing red face of embarrassment about talking about myself. So what that did was it opened the door of new opportunities for me. I'd kind of tapped into something, they could see my worth, and I got offered a job as a head of design at another firm. And I set about overhauling the design processes there to basically cut out wasteful activities. I'd done a lot of studying on lean management, quite by accident, but it was really applicable to what we were doing at that stage in the industry. So again, I was able to position myself as this forward thinker based on really simple fundamental principles. So that's what I set about doing that. And I used to do a full day's work in the office, preparing drawings, looking after a team of 20. And then I'd do a full night's work going underground during engineering hours to help the guys carry the materials down, fit them, and template out the tunnels so that we could do the next lot of work. My mum doesn't know this, she'd kill me if she did, but I'd walk back to King's Cross Station from St Paul's at 4 o'clock in the morning, wielding a spirit level like I wasn't afraid to use it, with any weirdos that might have been kind of mooching about at that time of the morning after I'd finished my shift. And then I'd be back into work at 9 o'clock again the next morning. So it was pretty intense, but I wanted to get under the skin of everything that we were doing. I didn't want to design in isolation. I wanted to see what the teams on site were having to contend with and try and be more effective in what we were, they're our client, basically. They had a small window of opportunity to fit these things, and they needed the design to fit right first time. So I learned loads during that. I was fully committed. I felt really well looked after. And then, well, that was until I found out quite by accident that my peers on the fellow male members of the SLT were getting paid double what I was earning. So I was doing double the hours. They were getting paid double what I was earning. And I thought, right, I'm going to let my feet do the talking. And it just so happened that I'd made an impression on one of our clients, and he suggested I make a shift over to main contracting. At that time, I didn't really know what main contractors did, but I guessed that I could just barrel my way in there and add value somewhere. So I said, yeah, okay, let's give it a go. The planets aligned, and off I went. So I joined main contractor, and it was my next significant moment of allyship, because my boss, he recognized something in me. He tapped into my love of people. He liked my collaborative approach. He liked that I didn't just accept the status quo and I wanted to look at different ways of doing things. And he gave me the space to develop my own style, to find my groove. And I realized that I'd landed a role where I could make much more of an impact than any of the ones that I'd previously been doing. So I was incrementally building without realizing, building my brand, building my profile. I was exposed to much larger, technically challenging projects, which I loved. I used to, so sad, isn't it? I used to spring out of bed every morning and think, right, what's the next challenge? Come on, bring it on. Let's crack it. And I think that's what we all need to feel in the jobs that we end up with, particularly as the line between work and life blurs so much more these days. So across the years, I gathered experience, a huge variety of sectors, building typologies, and there was never a dull day. That's for sure. I became BIM champion for WIC UK, and that was before the government mandated the use of BIM. And that again proved to be the next springboard for me. I got involved in large educational projects, healthcare projects, and complex major projects, because BIM at that time was driving efficiencies in the way that we were delivering D&B projects. So it made me interesting to those teams. So big challenges, but with big opportunities to innovate, which is exactly where my head was at. So about 2012, I got to a bit of a crossroads. I could see that there was a downturn in the market, and rather than kind of swim against the tide, I decided to go with it. And I asked my boss if I could take a year off and go off on a sabbatical, go traveling, experience the world, something I'd always wanted to do, but never had the opportunity to do it, and then hopefully come back to a recovered economy. He agreed, which was great. So for the first month, I volunteered as a games maker at the 2012 Olympics. So I went from drawing 3D models or modeling stuff in the built environment to prancing about with a big foam hand and singing at people, and it was great. I was totally buzzing with that. And didn't we put on a good show for the 2012 Olympics? It was good to be part of it. I went traveling around Africa, Southeast Asia, South America. It was amazing. And by the time I got back, I was really invigorated, really inspired. I'd met some amazing people, and I'd fully pressed the reset button. I was ready to get back to work. So I started off as in the pre-construction team, and we embarked on like this huge phase of work winning, which it was really successful. And actually, I was 8 months pregnant with twins. I was huge when we submitted a strategic bid that we'd been tracking for some time. It wasn't easy at all. Pregnant with twins, working long hours, hot summer months, trying to get this job across the line and win it to break into a market that we were targeting. It was full on, but we secured the deal. I went off on maternity leave feeling this massive sense of achievement and ready to have a rest. Well, the kids had other ideas. They let me have 2 weeks of calm downtime, and then outside a WIC's kitchen showroom in Lewisham, they decided it was time to make an appearance, and off it went into the chaos of parenthood. So it's safe to say I couldn't wait to return to work, and with my newly developed multitasking skills, I have to say, juggling 2 babies in a rugby hold, it's a fun experience. So I went back to work thinking they were going to give me an easy ride, settle me in gently, you know, give me some light duties. Well, no, they thrust me right back into a 42-story high-rise building for Manhattan Loft under the guardianship of Harry Handelsman. So parachuted into this massive, high-profile, technically challenging project as design lead, an astute client, a rigorous PM. Everything had to be perfect. We were challenged. We were held to account on everything. We were encouraged to drive improvements constantly. And I absolutely loved it. I loved it because it's exactly the place where my head was and where I wanted to be. So as a result of my contribution to that project, I was promoted to head of design for our residential team. And at that point, it's the next point of allyship. And that proved to be the most instrumental of my career. In 2017, I was nominated for the Best Woman Project Manager at the WIC Awards for the contribution to the projects and how I reacted under the difficult circumstances at Manhattan Loft. And I went on to win that award, hurrah, which I didn't think I was going to do at all. And it proved to be just a massive rocket into space for my career. So whereas previously I was having to battle to get recognised, to lift my head above the parapet, to constantly prove myself and my worth, and doing a lot of gratuitous effort, well, this sent up the flare to all that were around, that I had something more to offer, and that I should be utilised as a rising star in the business, which was lovely. It was great, and it felt a long way off from where I'd started. So I've been fortunate enough to have these helping hands along the way. It would have been much harder without that support and allyship that I received from both men and women, who have been brilliant, I have to say. And that for every naysayer and everyone that said I can't, there's been 10 that say you can and you go for it. And I hold on to that. I've experienced massive highs. I've experienced massive lows and kind of risen from those ashes. And I am committed to play my part in making that road a little less steep for others coming along, that next generation of talent. So my parting reflection is a personal one. I've got twins, a boy and a girl, and I want to make sure that I do my bit to heal bad attitudes and poor behaviours, so that my daughter isn't having to have these conversations. She's not having to climb that steep mountain when she's ready to embark on her career. Someone's not going to say to her, can you make a nice cup of tea, love? Or will you write the minutes? And that they both have access to the same opportunities without one being on the back foot for whatever reason. To think that they would ever be told that they can't do something. I hope I've given them the tools that they can stand up for what's right. And I read a quote recently, which I'm going to finish up on, Michaela, because I know I could just keep going and going. This quote, it really resonated with me. So it's this. She said, "I'm not giving up. The woman I'll be in a few years from now is counting on me." And the world shifted. I'm going to leave it on that.
Thank you, Paula. That was, I mean, wow. Number one, where do we start? I don't know if Paula, do you want to stop sharing your screen and then try and put your camera on? Because that might work.
Yes.
And then you can see you.
Stop sharing.
And then do you want to try putting your camera back on?
Yeah, let's give it a go.
Hopefully.
Come on. Hurrah. Still here. You're still there.
We're all here. Paula, honestly, that was so great. Thanks so much for sharing it with us. I'm going to come round to everybody for some questions. But what I found really interesting myself was at the start of it when you were saying that you did your protest to your brother's dismay as well, which I love, by the way. It's just this thing of years ago, you just feel like you had to stand alone, and then throughout your career, you've met all these allies, and now, like, obviously we've got this group of women, and it extends far beyond the monthly meetings that we do as well. It just feels like the more voices that you have in these protests, the faster that things are moving. And what I've seen over the last maybe 15 years since I've been talking about women in construction is it's a real snowball effect. And more so since the pandemic, the last 4 years, I've just seen like every woman coming out of the woodwork, no matter how shy they seem to be, no matter how new they are in career or how long they've been in there, everybody just seems to be backing this, and there's different initiatives starting all over the show, which inevitably is only going to make it easier for women. And to not be asked to make a brew, honest to God, like, imagine, I would have signed it, I would have said, yeah, I can, and definitely, I would have got that law, I would have been like, there you go. But no,
I love it.
But no, I loved it, Paula. That was yeah, it was really great. And I'll open it up to everybody. Does anybody want to ask any questions in the chat? No?
Oh, I was going to ask, sorry, I was trying to put my microphone on. Where do you think you got this sort of freedom, Paul? I think you're probably around the same age as me, and I feel like when you sort of grew up in the 80s and 90s, opportunities like football, for instance, I watch football, always have done, went to the football stadium with my dad. My dad took a lot of grief from friends because he's bringing his daughter, and you know, and I think particularly in the 80s, football was a very male dominated game. And now I play football as a woman for the first time in my 40s, which has been really fun. But where do you think you got that attitude where you could break that shell? Where do you think that came from? Because I think that's actually really, really difficult to break the mold and go, no, I'm not just going to be doing what I'm told to do. I'm going to do something different.
It's a really good question, Anna, because it's clear for me. So my dad was one of 10 and I was brought up with quite a big family. He had 5 sisters and 4 brothers, so they all just mucked in. Yeah, it was a team effort, and that's one thing that underpins how I approach my work and my life. It's a team effort. You know, you've all got to muck in. You've all got to respect each other. I don't know whether I've dropped out. I've frozen potentially.
No, you're good.
Okay. And it doesn't come down to gender, does it? It comes down to everyone plays their part, and you do the best you can for the good of that unit. And I apply that to work as well. I applied it to playing rugby. You know, I wasn't ever the fittest person, but I was very resilient and very determined. And even if I was shattered at the end of the second half and I could see my friend getting her face stood on over there, I would get up and I would get over there and I'd help her. And I do that in work. I do that with my family. On the flip side, Anna, my dad was very down to earth. My mum, once my brother and I had grown up a little bit older, she went out and she smashed it as a businesswoman. She was working in a shoe shop. She was told, look, Anne, look what this degree in psychology gets you, stacking shoes. So she's like, right, screw you. And she went out, she got a job as a secretary, and she worked herself up to national sales manager. And so I had her drive and her brilliance, and I had my dad's family orientation and sense of fair play and teamwork. And I think the two of those melded together to say to me, don't accept the negativity, carve out your own future.
Well, that's such a great answer, Paula. And you know, when I was growing up, I had 2 older brothers. I've got 4 brothers now and a sister, but I had 2 older brothers who honestly used to beat the shit out of me on a daily basis. And my mum just let them crack on with it. You know, she was like, there was no such thing as like girls are fragile in our house. It was all about the equality. So I was really battered a lot, to the point when my dad started sending Thai boxing at about 12. It's like, you need to learn to defend yourself. Because I was 12, my brother was 17. I was just getting really abused by them. But it was, I think that's such an important thing, which I say a lot. It's societal perceptions of the industry is a massive issue, as we all know. But it's also of how we treat girls in general anyway. You know, they wrap them up and cut, well, don't climb that tree, you'll hurt yourself, don't go in the mud because of this, don't speak too loud. And that is just such a huge thing in society, whereas I feel like if you brought up in big families and mixed families and you just treated the same as the boys in your families, then you just grow up thinking naively, as you said, everybody is treated the same, and then something happens. You'll just experience something, you'll be like, what are you talking about? I'm a woman. Like, what? Yeah, since when did this matter? And when I was in primary school, there was no girls' football team. And so my mum, they wouldn't let me on the boys' football team, despite me. Honestly, I was playing for United at the time. I was so good. And I was by far the best on the team. So my mum's gone in and gone absolutely berserk at the head teacher. And then I ended up the only girl footballer, like, in the whole league. And I was like doing flips after I scored. I'm the only gymnast / footballer on this team. But I think it's all these little lessons and the different styles of parenting and what you're exposed to at that young age then allows you to just be like, obviously I can enter a male-dominated industry. Like, what are you talking? And not only that, I'm going to whip all these men into shape. I think it's like really important that this message is given at school, and that our friends who we know who have got daughters understand, like, we're not more fragile, you know, like we can do exactly the same as what boys can do. And it's interesting, you see that with so many women in construction where they tell you these same stories of they had to play on the boys' team, or this happened to them and they was beat up off the brothers, or something along these lines. The dads was really strict, something it's always feels like it's a similar story, individual, but like a similar vibe there as well. So it really resonated with me. And I'm just, again, I don't want to take over here, which I have tendencies. I can talk as well, Paula. I can talk as well. Does anybody else have any questions? Want to add anything? Can't believe that Belinda and Helen and Claire are all being silent for
I know. I'm sitting here like, God, yeah, just agreeing with everything in my head. But sure, look, I would probably take the rest of it. So, but yeah, no, listen, my main thing that I say to everyone, I'd be like, don't let the red lipstick and the 6-inch heels fool you. You know, like, I with the boys, I go home, I meet the lads, I go for pints, you know, I take absolutely no shit on site. Where I'm literally in my element because I can swear as much as I want. I can, you know, come here, tell me this now. You know, whether it's legal or commercial capacity, I've always, you know, I've never shied from it. Like, you know, it's gonna, yeah, and what, like, you know, what, I've nothing to be afraid of, say. So yeah, no, I do echo your kind of approach to it as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Belinda.
Thank you.
You're a force to be reckoned with, Belinda.
Oh, stop. I'm trying. I'm up and down, up and down.
Paula, can I ask you actually? So obviously your career's been long thus far. What has been most difficult challenge? What's been the biggest thing where you've been like, I really don't know if there's been one where you're like, I actually don't know if I want to do this anymore?
There was one moment kind of halfway through where I almost hung up my boots completely, Michaela, and I'd been working long hours. I'd been grafting, I'd been contributing, adding value, going for it. And I thought I'm going to have to ask for a promotion because no one's just going to give it to me. So I'm going to have to go and sit the boys down and say, look at all this stuff I'm doing. I'm operating above my job description, although I don't really agree with those. I think you flutter in and out of doing stuff rather than being pigeonholed. And I sat down and said, please can I have a promotion? I haven't had one for years and I'm doing lots of good stuff. And the guy at the time said to me, Paula, don't be ridiculous. I can't promote you. You're my kingmaker. And I was like, right. So basically, I'm your bitch. Yeah, you're telling me that I'm going to do all the work, you're going to take all the credit, and I'm your bitch. So I left. And that was it.
God. And then, so then if anybody was to find themselves in that situation, like what on earth would you do? Did you just hand in your notice there and then and be like, I'm going to what was the next steps?
Luckily enough, I was getting noticed by other people, so it wasn't like I kind of spat my dummy out, did a 180 turn and stuck my fingers in the air, although that's what I've felt like doing. I just backed out. I thought, right, I'm in the wrong. I'm not going to go anywhere here. It was literally the epitome of the glass ceiling. I thought, if I want to do this, I'm in control of my own destiny. So I waited and I waited for the right opportunity, and then when the time was right, I let my feet do the walking. And I think you've got to do that. It feels uncomfortable. It makes you feel anxious. But actually, the one thing we're taught in rugby, sorry to keep going back to these analogies, that whatever decision you make, it won't ever be wrong as long as you give it your 100%. You'll always make a success of it. Just give it 100%. So that's what I did. I just said, right, balls to this. This doesn't feel right. I've got to take control. And that's what I did. So that's what I'd recommend to anyone. Put yourself and your ambitions first. You're the master of your own destiny. No one else is going to do that for you.
Yeah, amazing. Love that, Paula. I know, Sam, you've got your hand up, and you've been joined by somebody as well. Who's asking the question?
Yes. Yeah, I'm Claire. I was next door, but I was the one, the HR director at the company that Sam and I worked together, and I'm so frustrated because I couldn't speak. That's because my system wasn't allowing audio. So apologies.
I'm not sure if it's my reception, Claire.
Yeah.
You had like a jinx for technology, because Sam was working just fine before you answered that really. I don't know if you.
But I can totally empathise with everything that Paula said. Maybe let's try and off video. Can you hear us now?
Oh yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll try it off video. It is totally me. I'm sorry. So yeah, I completely empathise with what Paul was saying. And everybody else has said it. I was the only girl in the men's university water polo team. I started my own water polo team. You know, when I first started training with the guys, they wouldn't chuck me the ball. You know, they wouldn't tackle me. We just soon changed that. But my thought process about that is, we've all got these kind of stories. But what about the women who don't have those kind of stories? And for me, as an HR director, working in construction and having all of those stories that everybody talks about, my pinnacle is at some point in hopefully not too distant future, we don't have to be the only woman in a team. We don't have to fight for everything. And because not every woman has that ability to do that, but they still have things to bring to the table. So my frustration is, you know, for all of those women and all that talent that we're missing out on, who haven't had to do those things to get in, to have that mentality, to get into that sort of a situation, we're missing out on those. And at some point, I hope the industry will enable women who aren't the only woman in a team, don't have to struggle to get through, you know, will be able to join the industry without us, you know, without feeling that they've gone through that kind of a struggle. That would be my ultimate aim.
I think that's great, Claire. I think, you know, it resonates with me. Our ultimate aim is not to have to distinguish, you know, with things as great as they are, with the Women in Construction Awards and Women in Construction events. It should just be construction events for the whole gang to turn up to and not be differentiated. But until we're at that place, which we're not at, there's still the old mentality in some corners that restrict us from doing that. Until that point, it's incumbent on us to, if indeed people want us to share our insights, but to mentor, to support, to advocate, and to be allies to people who are coming from a range of different experiences, a range of backgrounds. You know, we've got a mentoring circles program that reaches out to lots of different types of people on site and in the offices. We do STEM returner programs, and women who are really highly skilled, but because they've been out of the workplace for a couple of years, like looking after kids or elderly parents or something, they can't even pass the AI sift of CVs.
Right.
So, but they're brilliant, and we did a massive drive to interview some people and give them.
Well, it's due to finish at 10:15, Jane.
Somebody on.
I'll just hop on. It's women in construction.
Finish it, Paula.
Yeah, it's dragging on a bit.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
So we tried to look at different routes for getting different kinds of talent in from less conventional routes. I'm totally with you, Claire. Building resilience, we shouldn't have to go through really shitty experiences to build resilience, but we should be tight as a group of minorities in this industry who should just be trying to help each other. And the amount of times that I hear this queen bee syndrome, where somebody's climbing over somebody else, another woman, to get to where they want to be, and adopting overtly male traits to dominate others. What is that all about? Let's help each other out, whatever they need. Let's help them out. I'm all up for that. And it's not just our industry. I met a woman on a train this morning. I didn't know her from Adam. She said, "You look like a kind soul. I'm going to talk to you." I found out everything about her family, her job, her kids, but in half an hour, half an hour on the train. Be a kind soul. That's it. I'm preaching a bit. Sorry.
That's
I had a quick question as well, Paula, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear us now with the video?
Yes, Sam. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. No, thank you ever so much. It's a really inspiring event. Really appreciate it. So my question was around allies. So you naturally created those allies as you went through role to role, obviously because you're very inspiring. But have you got any tips for how I could try and implement some allies and try and gain them on side, and a bit of like an education piece around it? I think we're trying to establish a women in construction network, and it's how to bring people in, males and females, and kind of get that going.
So you've hit the nail on the head there. When I was at WIC, we had a women's network that was only for women, and we laboured long and hard about whether we should invite men to the group. With WAITS and WAITS Women and Allies, the name suggests, we invite men to come along, because actually the misconception is that we all sit around bitching about blokes and talking about nail varnish and stuff. Yeah, sometimes we talk about nail varnish.
That's my concern.
but that isn't the case at all. So we've got some really brilliant allies at all levels within the organisation who are absolutely committed to supporting us in what we do. We can't do it alone. We have to not be an island. We have to do it together, and the strength in that. And honestly, some of the guys are much more passionate and angry about unfairness than any of the girls are in some cases. So if you feel ready to do that, I would open it up to a few allies. Whenever we do women's events, we ask each of our WAITS Women and Allies committee members to bring a man that might need some exposure to the other side of behaviours or unconscious bias along with us, and that has proved to be instrumental as well. But Sam, personally, if you're always consistent, if you are known as a safe pair of hands, if you celebrate your achievements without thinking that you're being big-headed, our male colleagues do that, yeah? Celebrate your achievements. Become the person that people gravitate to, because you know what you're talking about. Your allies will come to you. That's what happened with me. They trusted me. It took a while. The guys seem to trust each other straight away, and then sometimes hate what's been created. What we have to do is we have to gently build that trust with our allies. I've been very fortunate. Another one was a very high senior female within construction business, sitting on board level, who always found time to talk to me, to ask what I was doing, to support our initiatives, and she was an inspiration. More of it, I say.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paula, and thanks, Sam. Anna, I keep seeing your hands going up and down, Anna.
Sorry, I keep thinking of things, and then Paula brilliantly touches on it. But I was just going to say as well, I think there wasn't tons of great stuff that came out of COVID, but one of the things that's come out of it, just ending on a sort of positive note, is this, and Waits have very much adopted this flexible working. I had taken 8 years out to bring up my 3 girls, and went back to the workplace. And the way we work at Waits, the flexible working, the understanding that you still have to go and pick up your children in the middle of the working day, but you will make sure you get your job done. You might have to log on at night sometimes. That kind of flexible working approach is something that's made it possible for me to even go to work in the first place. So that sort of progressive step in the workplace is huge, and I think that's attracted a lot of great women back to the workplace who maybe thought it wouldn't be possible to go because they'd have to sit in an office 9 to 5. So yeah, I think we sort of are getting there. It's slow. There's lots of things that we can do that are different. There's lots of progress yet to be made, but I think there is really great leaps every now and then. Something just comes out of it that makes it accessible for women.
I totally agree, and I work 4 days condensed hours. Now, anyone who does that knows that it's never 4 days. But if I want to stick my heels in and say, no, I'm going to spend that extra day. I'm going to pick my kids up from school. I'm going to take them into school. We have that one simple thing as well, don't we? It's something that allows us to balance work and life. I mean, you still end up feeling guilty. You don't feel like you're ever giving enough to your work. You don't feel like you're ever giving enough to your kids. But actually, my mum puts it really well. She says, you can't be a superwoman in everything, Paula. So just be kind to yourself. But we're very fortunate. The flexible working, agile working does cast the net wider to a greater pool of talent that would have been missed if we didn't adopt those practices.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'll tell you all something funny. And I spoke to Paula last night about what we'd be sorry, Paula, about what we'd be talking about here, and her kids was just in the background going mental as children do. And she was like, right, stop it, when I'm saying something. They just started screaming. It was me. I mean, she was like, well, that didn't go according to plan. I was like, oh, I just love seeing this real normal side of people. And yeah, just the fact that we all have mad kids at home as well, that unfortunately they are a priority. I think I know people have got away from this now, work-life balance, because there is no such thing. But we can, I make a real conscious effort to just be present in that moment with whatever it is. So if I'm at work and I'm with somebody, then I'm wholly with you. If I'm on this call, then I'm wholly on this call. If I'm with my kids, then I'm completely with them. And we can only give what we want to give. And I do believe that it is possible to have it all. I'm a business owner. I started my business at 25 after I had my son who was 5 months old at the time, and I think that was my inspiration to go on and do that. So I think looking at women and thinking, oh God, they're due to have children or they're going to have children, actually it's a disservice to your own business, because when you have the children, I think that's when you become more hungry, because you've literally got children's feed and nursery feed as well. Oh gosh, that must have been awful for you with twins. These nursery fees that we have to pay for, and everything that comes with having a child. I think it really makes women more hungry to do better in the career and earn more money. And you know what else I found really interesting, Paula, when you said about you was working double the hours and getting paid half as much. I don't know who said it, but it's common saying, I guess, where they say women have to work twice as hard to be seen half as good. And that was literally reflected in your pay slip as well. Number one, how did you find that out? And number two, what do? Like, what was the immediate reaction? Did you punch someone? Did you rugby tackle someone?
Well, you know, that's my go-to activity, isn't it, Michaela, as we talked last night? I have to do it virtually in my mind now, you see. I happened to be given the wrong payslip. That's how I found out, upper days, as I say to my kids. And I wanted to take the moral high ground. It wouldn't have done any good kicking off. I would have got some empty gesture about, oh yeah, look, we'll redress the balance. What they should have done is paid equally at that time. So it pointed me down a direction. I'm a true believer in fate. certain things will point you down a certain direction. You've got to listen to your gut. You've got to look at the evidence around you. And if people aren't looking after you in the here and now, and they only do it retrospectively, then that's an empty gesture as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I was fuming, but actually what it did was push me out the door to much more impactful things. So it was a blessing in a way, Michaela. The one thing I wanted to touch on, sorry, just about the kids, is just another thing that's come up recently is not every woman wants to be a parent, but some people, there's still the old guard that think that a woman gets to a certain age, of course she's going to want to knock out some sprogs. So in some cases, they treat women like they can't promote them because, hold on, she's at that age, she's going to have to be, she's going to be wanting to have kids soon. And for all, it's an absolute joy having our kids. I hate witnessing that, where you can see it, this unconscious bias, and people are penalised by it. They could be the most driven person ever, and that's something we need to get to as well. Our female peers and colleagues that aren't interested in parenthood being treated on that same level as well. It's all about fairness, isn't it? Whether it's pay, whether it's promotion opportunities, it's just about being decent human beings.
I also think what will help with that is actually offering men split paternity leave as well, should they choose to do it. I've always earned more money than any of my partners, so unfortunately I've gone back to work after both my children when they was 2 weeks old, because got to keep the lights on. But I think by having this offer as well of them being able to do it, then the men and women of that age, where this unconscious bias comes in, will be judged the same, and thinking, well, actually, he might be the one who ends up taking the paternity leave, you know, as well as the wife who does it. I think that might get rid of some of this. And I also think, like, and so they should as well, you know, both I've got 2 kids with 2 different dads, and both of my children's dads have been amazing parents as well, and really present in their lives. You know, they should also have the opportunity to be able to spend that time with the children. If we're going to ask for equality in the workplace, then we need to ask for equality outside of the workplace and at home as well. And for those men who are passionate about standing up and being actively involved in the children's lives, and need the opportunity to do it. But I guess that is a whole different
No, I totally agree. Do you know, Michaela, unless we offer that to our male colleagues, we'll always be the ones that go and are on kid looking after duty. And we've just, I'm not going to do a sales pitch for Waits, but we've just extended our paternity policy, and it's I'm going to get told off if I've got this wrong, but I think it's 6 months full pay. So it's all about the behaviours, the attitudes now to getting people. Oh God, sorry, 12 weeks. Sorry, Charlotte, 12 weeks full pay. But it's huge, because now go and do it. There's no excuse not to go and take some time and spend some time with your family, whether you're the male parent, female parent, whatever parent. So it's brilliant, and it's just changing this old mindset of the guy stays at work, the woman goes home, and it's still there, quite prevalent in our industry anyway.
100%. That's amazing as well, that Waits are doing that. And I love to say, I've been talking about it for ages. I know there's a few companies here and there who jumped onto it early, so it's nice to see that there's more larger organisations as well, just setting the precedent, you know, like, oh, this is what you can get off there. And at the end of the day, people have to match that. Then the other companies are going to have to match that, because otherwise Waits are going to be more popular when it comes to attracting men who eventually want to have children and want to be able to take that up. So it just takes some confident businesses to lead the way with that. I love to see it, and I'm conscious we are at the end of our meeting today. Thank you so much, Paula. Honestly, it was really inspirational. I've absolutely loved listening to you. For everybody else, we're going to put it in the Hub app. You'll be able to watch it back on record. I know we're delayed with our shortlist announcements as well on social media for those of you who are waiting, but I think the first one's actually going out today. It's definitely going to be this week. So you'll be able to see who has been shortlisted. The tickets have stopped on sale at the minute unless you are shortlisted, because we're really close to actually selling out already. So they will be I'll let you all know when they're open again, should you want to come and support everybody. And we'll be back again next month, same time, second Thursday of the month, 9:30 to 10:30. Totally slips my mind who's going to be there, but it'll come out in the newsletter. And actually we're doing Snowdon, so we're going to have everybody who's wanting to climb Snowdon next week, or is being forced to by Claire. then we're going to add you into a group chat, and yeah, with all the arrangements on. So we're climbing Snowdon next week, everybody. Which is going to be next week. I don't know if it's going to be a fun one. Thank you all very much. And we'll see
Thank
you.
you.
Paula.
Thanks so much, Paula. Thanks, Michaela.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.